He writes a book called Mein Kampf, My Struggle, which is basically a long, rambling Yelp review about how much he hates the world. He promises to make Germany great again, rip up the Treaty of Versailles, and maybe, just maybe, take over the entire world. The German people, desperate and hungry, say, well, he seems intense, but he promises jobs. Spoiler alert. The job was war. Hitler becomes chancellor in 1933 and immediately starts breaking rules. He rebuilds the army. The League of Nations, the great-grandfather of the UN, says, hey, you can't do that. Hitler says, watch me, and leaves the group chat. Then he sends troops into the Rhineland. France and Britain do nothing. This is the era of appeasement. Neville Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, basically treats Hitler like a toddler throwing a tantrum. Maybe if we give him a cookie, he'll stop screaming. Hitler wants Austria, fine, take it. This is the Anschluss. The Austrians actually cheer because, hey, their team is winning now. Then Hitler wants the Sudetenland, a slice of Czechoslovakia. Chamberlain flies to Munich, signs a paper, and comes back waving it saying, peace for our time. Narrator voice, it was in fact not peace for our time. It was the calm before the storm. Hitler looks at the rest of Czechoslovakia and eats it too. Britain and France finally realize that maybe, just maybe, this Hitler guy isn't trustworthy. They draw a line in the sand. If you touch Poland, we fight. They think this will be like WWII, slow and defensive. They are wrong, but first he needs to destroy the Royal Air Force, RAF. This is the Battle of Britain. It's fought entirely in the sky. The German Luftwaffe bombs airfields, then cities. London is burning during the Blitz, but the British have a secret weapon radar. They can see the Germans coming. British pilots run to their Spitfires and Hurricanes, fighting exhausted day after day. Churchill delivers the line, never was so much owed by so many to so few. Hitler realizes he can't control the skies, so he cancels the invasion. He gets bored. And when Hitler gets bored, he does stupid things. He looks east, he looks at his friend, Stalin, and he thinks, I bet I can take him. On June 22, 1941, Germany launches Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history. 3 million soldiers, thousands of tanks. They smash into the Soviet Union. Stalin is so shocked he literally hides in his room for days. The Germans advance hundreds of miles. They capture millions of prisoners. They can see the spires of Moscow. But they forgot one thing, the same thing Napoleon forgot. General winter. It gets cold, specifically 40 degrees cold. German engines freeze. German guns jam. German soldiers are wearing summer uniforms because Hitler thought the war would be over by October. The Soviet winter counterattack begins. The German army is halted. This is the beginning of the end, but nobody knows it yet. Let's talk about the Pacific theater. At first, Japan is winning everything. They take the Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong. They are unstoppable. But then comes the Battle of Midway in June 1942. The U.S. breaks the Japanese naval code. They know exactly where the Japanese fleet is going. In 5 fateful minutes, American dive bombers sink 4 Japanese aircraft carriers. Boom, 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 boom. The Japanese Navy never recovers. From now on, the U.S. starts island hopping. They don't take every island. They just take the important ones and starve the rest. It's brutal jungle warfare. Marines fighting effectively against suicidal charges, booby traps, and humidity that makes you wish you were dead. Eventually, the Soviet army surrounds the German Sixth Army. Hitler orders them to fight to the last man. General Paulus surrenders instead. It is a catastrophe for Germany. The Soviet steamroller starts moving west, and it doesn't have brakes. As the Allies push into Germany, they uncover the true horror of the Nazi regime. The Holocaust, concentration camps, Auschwitz, Dachau, Buchenwald. Soldiers hardened by years of war break down and weep at what they find. industrialized murder. 6 million Jews and millions of others, Roma LGBTQ+, disabled political prisoners wiped out. It is the darkest stain on human history, a reminder of what happens when hate is systematized. It gives the Allies a grim resolve. This regime must be destroyed completely. April 1945. The Soviets are in Berlin. They are fighting block by block. Hitler is in his Führer bunker. He realizes the game is up. He marries his girlfriend Eva Braun. They have a small party. Then on April 30th, they commit suicide. Hitler takes the coward's way out via a pistol and cyanide. His propaganda minister Goebbels does the same. The Third Reich, which was supposed to last 1,000 years, lasted 12. Germany surrenders. WWII victory in Europe. Everyone parties. But wait, the war isn't over. Japan is still fighting. The fighting in the Pacific gets even more intense as the U.S. gets closer to Japan. Iwo Jima. Okinawa. The Japanese introduce kamikazes pilots who crash their planes into ships. It's terrifying. The Japanese military code, Bushido, views surrender as shameful. Civilians are jumping off cliffs rather than be captured. The U.S. looks at the plan for invading mainland Japan, Operation Downfall. The estimated casualties are in the millions. President Harry Truman Roosevelt died of a stroke. RIP faces a choice: invade and lose 1 million men, or use the new secret weapon developed by the Manhattan Project, the atomic bomb. The scientists led by Oppenheimer aren't even sure if it will ignite the atmosphere and kill everyone. They test it in New Mexico. It works. Oppenheimer quotes Hindu scripture, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The U.S. issues an ultimatum: surrender or face prompt and utter destruction. Japan ignores it. August 6, 1945. The Enola Gay drops Little Boy on Hiroshima. The sun rises twice that day. The city is erased. 70,000 die instantly. Japan still debates surrender. The Soviet Union declares war on Japan and invades Manchuria. August 9th. Fat Man is dropped on Nagasaki. Another city gone. Emperor Hirohito finally intervenes. He goes on the radio the first time his people have ever heard his voice and announces the surrender. He uses the understatement of the millennium. The war situation has developed not necessarily to Japan's advantage. World War II is over. The aftermath is huge. Europe is ruined. The old powers Britain, France are broke and exhausted. Two new superpowers emerge, the USA and the USSR. They look at each other across the ruins of Berlin. They don't like each other. The Cold War begins before the smoke even clears. Germany is split in two. The Iron Curtain falls. To prevent this from happening again, the world creates the United Nations. They write the Declaration of Human Rights. They hold the Nuremberg trials to punish the Nazis, establishing that "I was just following orders" is not a valid defense. Technology has leapt forward. Jet engines, rockets, nuclear energy computers. Thank you, Alan Turing, for cracking the Enigma code and inventing modern computing. The world has changed forever. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Grab your popcorn and put on your safety helmets, because we are about to review the sequel. You know how sequels usually suck. They try too hard, the budget is too big, and the plot makes no sense. Well, World War II is the exception. It is bigger, louder, deadlier, and features the most cartoonishly evil villain in human history. If World War I was a bar fight, World War II is a wrestling match inside a burning building while Godzilla attacks the city. To understand how we got here, we have to look at Germany in the 1930s. Remember the Treaty of Versailles, the one that forced Germany to pay all the money in the world and say, "I'm sorry" to everyone. Yeah, the Germans didn't like that. The economy was in the toilet. A loaf of bread cost 200 billion marks. People were using money as wallpaper. because it was cheaper than actual wallpaper. Enter a failed Austrian painter with a funny mustache and a very loud voice, Adolf Hitler. Hitler looks at Poland. He wants it. But he's worried about the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin is over there, looking paranoid and terrifying. So in the biggest plot twist of the century, the Nazis and the Communists, who hate each other's guts, sign the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. It's a non-aggression pact. Publicly they say, "Let's be friends." Privately they agree to carve up Poland like a Thanksgiving turkey. On September 1st, 1939, Germany invades Poland. They introduce a new tactic, blitzkrieg, lightning war. It's fast, it's loud, and it involves a lot of tanks. The Polish army fights bravely, strictly on horseback against tanks. In some myths, which isn't entirely true, but they were outgunned. Britain and France declare war on Germany. World War II has officially begun. But then, nothing happens. For 8 months, it's the phony war. French soldiers sit on the Maginot Line, a super-advanced wall of forts, drinking wine and waiting. In May 1940, Germany hits the fast-forward button. They bypass the Maginot Line by going through the Ardennes forest. The French generals thought the forest was impassable for tanks. The German panzers, driven by soldiers literally high on crystal meth, Pervitin was standard issue, drove through the trees and popped up behind the French lines. Surprise. France falls in 6 weeks. 6 weeks! The British army is trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk. They are about to be annihilated. But Hitler pauses the tanks. Why, nobody knows for sure. Maybe he wanted to give his Air Force a chance to shine. This delay allows the British to launch Operation Dynamo. They send every boat available destroyers, fishing boats, yachts, life rafts to rescue the soldiers. They save 338,000 men. It's a miracle. But as Churchill reminded everyone, wars are not won by evacuations. Now Britain stands alone. Hitler plans Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of Britain. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Japan is playing its own game of empire building. Japan has been invading China since 1937. Some argue WWII actually started there. They want resources. Oil, rubber, steel. The United States says, "Hey, stop killing people," and puts an oil embargo on Japan. Japan has a choice: stop the war or get more oil. They choose option B. But the U.S. Navy is in the way, so Japan decides to knock them out in one punch. December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Japanese planes attack the U.S. Pacific Fleet in Hawaii. It's a devastating surprise attack. Battleships sink. Men die. Japan thinks this will scare America into submission. Instead, they just woke up a sleeping giant, and that giant is filled with rage and industrial capacity. President Roosevelt declares war. Germany, in another act of stupidity, declares war on the U.S. to support Japan. Now it's a world war. The gang is all here. The Allies, US, UK, USSR, versus the Axis, Germany. Italy, Japan. Back in Europe, the tide is turning. We have to talk about Italy. Oh, Italy. Mussolini wants to recreate the Roman Empire, but his army is trying their best. They invade Greece and get pushed back. Germany has to come save them. They fight in North Africa and get pushed back. Germany has to come save them with Rommel the Desert Fox. But eventually, the British Montgomery and Americans Patton kick the Axis out of Africa. They invade Sicily. The Italians look at Mussolini and say, "You're fired." Italy switches sides. Germany now has to occupy Italy and fight the Allies there. It's a mess. But the real meat grinder is in Russia, the Battle of Stalingrad. This is the bloodiest battle in human history. The Germans want the city because it bears Stalin's name. Stalin wants the city because it bears his name. They fight for every street, every house, every room. It's a rat war. Snipers like Vasily Zaitsev become legends. To open a second front and take pressure off the Soviets, the Allies plan the big one. D-Day, June 6, 1944. Operation Overlord. They trick the Germans into thinking the invasion is coming at Pas-de-Calais. They build a fake army with inflatable tanks and cardboard planes, Operation Fortitude. The Germans fall for it. The real invasion hits Normandy. 156,000 men storm the beaches. Omaha Beach is a slaughterhouse popularized by Saving Private Ryan, but the Allies break through. Now Germany is being squeezed. Soviets from the East Americans and British from the West. Hitler is losing his mind. He's in a bunker moving imaginary armies on a map. His hands are shaking. He survives an assassination attempt, a bomb in a briefcase, which only makes him more paranoid. Germany tries one last gamble. The Battle of the Bulge, a massive counterattack in the snow. It fails. The road to Berlin is open, but let's look at the human cost. 70 to 85 million people died. That's 3% of the world population in 1940. It was a war of ideologies, of race, of resources. It showed the absolute worst of humanity, but also the best ordinary people doing extraordinary things to defeat tyranny. We learned that appeasement doesn't work. We learned that fascism is a dead end. And we learned that if you see a dictator writing a book about his struggles, maybe don't buy it. World War II is the defining event of the modern era. Everything we have today, our borders, our technology, our alliances exists because of what happened between 1939 and 1945. It was the ultimate toxic sequel that actually changed the franchise forever. So thanks for watching. Don't start a land war in Asia. Don't invade Russia in winter. And for the love of history, smash that subscribe button like the Allies smashed the Berlin Wall. Wait, that's the next episode? Stay tuned.